Hey YouTubers, I wanted to show you a little acquisition I have that we're trying to save. It's kind of like going to the pound and saving the dog nobody wants. I was able to pick up this, I think it's a LQ9 2005 short block. The problem with it was they had removed the front main cap, if you can see the rust on the crank journal. They had removed that. The timing chain had exploded, which in turn exploded or popped apart the oil pump. So the engine wouldn't turn over. It just was, they claimed you could just rock the engine back and forth, but the chain was bound up behind the oil pump and wouldn't let it turn over. So apparently they thought it would be a good idea to just leave it outside on an engine stand getting rained in for an undetermined amount of time. So she was completely seized up with rust in the cylinders, but 24 hours of soaking it with penetrating oil and transmission fluid with acetone in it, we were able to break it free and clean, get it to rotate freely. I do kick myself in the butt for not videoing all this happenstance, but it was kind of a spur of the moment purchase because I've been looking for a 6-liter block, actually block and crank. But you can see, I'm gonna give you guys a small example of how dirty this engine was. Look at the rust, look at the leaves, bugs, snails, whatever, down inside these pistons. Because apparently this engine was upside down, right side up, upside down, just on an engine stand, not bagged, not covered, nothing. But all the pistons move freely on the rod or pins. 2 of the pistons have witness marks on them from hitting a valve, but they're super light. Like apparently, and of course, you take it with a grain of salt, the seller said that the heads were actually sold to a different person and are supposed to be in service now. So they're assuming that those 2 valves that hit the pistons aren't bent, because those people aren't complaining about, a running issue or missing or anything like that. So I came over today after we got this thing broke loose where it would actually spin over, and wanted to, pull it all the rest of the way down, get the crank and rods out of it, maybe even run a hone through the cylinders. That way I can kind of see, is this thing savable with a standard bore, or is it gonna have to be bored? Even if it has to be bored, an LQ9 short block for 150 bucks is pretty good. I'm like, I'll gamble it because, it has the Gen 4 rods. I mean, just a set of the Gen 4 rods should be worth 100 bucks. And then if the crankshaft, and I'm really scared that the crankshaft is going to have to be turned only because they left that stupid main cap off during all this rain. And I'm looking now that they may have had that second main cap off too, because it's looking a little rough. But, it's a 6-liter, guys. They're not as easy to find anymore under $500. So I was like, well, 150 bucks, I'll take a gamble. We might be able to get her broke apart and see what's going on. So let me get some more work done, and we'll go ahead and get these mains pulled and get the crank pulled out, and then we'll flip her over and see what the cylinders are going to look like. Okay, guys, we got the thing disassembled. We ran a hone through the worst cylinder, which is number 6. It's definitely going to need to be bored. I know you guys can't see in the video the texture, we're going to call it, of the number 6 cylinder. But that was the primary culprit for why you couldn't turn the engine over, because it was so rusted and seized. The WD-40 and ATF that's in there greatly improves the visual representation of it, but trust me, That is definitely rough to the touch. It's gonna have to be bored, which that's fine. The area that I'm super concerned with is with the #1 crank journal. Here's what's weird. The crankshaft journal looks fine. The bearing did not appear to be bad, but wait till you see the saddle in the block itself for the #1 journal. I got 4 out of 5 that look great. Let's just take a look at that #1 and see what it looks like. All right, here's the bad news. Line bore and hone is probably going to be the best bet. See that #1 main? You never want to see where those tangs have made their own home. And we were hopeful, but when you look at the cap, it's the same way, maybe even worse. I know the camera might not be doing it justice, but trust me, that front main bearing had turned, and you know, whether it happened as a result of the broken timing chain or not, you know, I'll take it to the machine shop and see what they recommend or what they think can be done. But if the machine work exceeds the value of the block, then I'll just be hopefully able to use the crankshaft and the Gen 4 rods out of it. I don't know. It just sucks because the other 4 mains are fine. Now there is metal, like all the little cutouts for the saddles for the other 4 mains have metal dust, metal chunks and crap in it, which would be expected from an engine that had a broken timing chain and an exploded oil pump. But it just sucks that you got 4 mains that are fine, and then boom, you come across the #1 that goes, haha, funny on you. So basically, I don't know, I'm a little disheartened, but I'll just see what kind of machine cost I would be looking at total, because it's going to have to be bored. It's going to have to be line honed or line bored and honed, if that'll even fix that #1 main. I don't know yet, because that seems like a pretty severe grooving, you know. And then my cheap mind starts saying, well, hell, 4 out of 5 mains are good, right? Maybe we can pin that front one where it can't turn and just run it. You know, I don't know. Maybe I'm being too cheap for my own good. So that is my LQ9 story, and I'm sticking to it. But the crank, ironically, the crank journal for #1 doesn't look damaged at all. I don't know. We're just gonna have to take it into the machine shop, have them mic everything, and just see if the crankshaft's savable. The rods are definitely usable. Pistons, they're pretty sketchy, but who knows? Sometimes you can clean those dirty ass pistons up and they look fine. So that, my friends, is my LQ9 6-liter purchase / gamble. Hopefully it'll work out for the best, but who knows? Please like, subscribe, and share.